Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here with me today. Leigh Munity with you as always. This is an exciting interview, inspiring, I would say. One that hopefully will motivate you to pursue and go after those things that really give you a greater sense of fulfillment and aliveness in life. And that's what it's all about. This is a really cool interview. I sit down with David Gerber today. He's a mental performance coach, he's a TEDx speaker, and he's partner of the Novus Global group. He's also, and this is what's really interesting, this is where we start the conversation, he's a certified lion tracker. Cool, huh? He's written a book called The Lion Is You, Lessons from the Wild on Coming Alive Again, and that's where we begin the conversation today. Tracking lions, what that's taught him, and we also delve into his coaching field and dealing with high-performing executives, athletes, etc., and the lessons from those experiences. And really, we talk about purpose and how we can create a life of greater freedom, fulfillment, and happiness. And that's about feeling alive. A really interesting topic, and I hope you enjoy it, guys. So check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. All the show notes there, links to David as well. And as always, if there's anything we can help you with, please do reach out to myself and the team. If you'd like to come on the show or have a suitable guest that would like to come on the show, let us know. Or if you'd just like to catch up for a conversation, reach out. Hope you have a great day, guys, and enjoy this conversation with David Gerber.
I love it.
David, welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today.
Great to be here, Leigh. Great to see you.
Yeah, man, you too. How's life?
Life's good over here in Colorado, in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things are good here. I just got back I had a 3-week trip to South Africa in July, so it's been good to get settled back in here in the U.S.
Yeah, nice. Talk to us about that, because you got the book, The Lion Is You, and you go and walk around Africa chasing lions around.
That's right. Yeah. So I was over there doing that, and I do what's called lion tracking in South Africa.
Is this something you got into more recently, or something you've been doing for a while?
It's been about 4 years now that I've been into it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been quite a treat. I've always had this fascination with lions, and I've been to a couple of trips into Africa back in like 2007 and 2009, and I'd gone on a couple of game drives and saw lions in the wild once, which I found to be fascinating even from a vehicle. And then I went on a week-long safari in 2018 and got the full thing of it, and really started getting hooked on just the wild in Africa, and just not being in a zoo, not being in a safari park, but being in a legitimate zoo, being in legitimate wild. And as I was there, I just started talking, and I'd ask people, like, can you go out on foot? What's that like? Did the lions just eat you? Like, what's the deal? So through kind of asking enough questions, I realized, people do go on walks, but it typically would just be what's called a bushwalk, which you go out for 90 minutes and you're really looking for like birds, or, you're looking at plants and stuff like that. And I poked around enough and here and there, and I found a guy named Boyd Vardy, who's a somewhat well-known lion tracker in South Africa. His family has a game reserve there. And then I realized that you actually can go not just on a bushwalk, but you can go tracking lions. Like, it's a thing. It's quite rare, but you can do it. And so then in 2022, I went on my first trip where I went tracking lions. And from the moment I started doing it, I was just hooked, because it was just being out in the raw wilderness was just such a joy. Yeah.
Wow. Was it just being in nature and having that sense of freedom that was the hook for you, or what was it exactly?
So the hook, that was a huge part of it. The hook was just this insane amount of anticipation and mystery that was always happening. Is you're out walking, and sometimes you walk for 4 or 5 hours and see almost nothing, and then all of a sudden there'll be a step you take and you see lions, and you have this amazing, beautiful, close encounter with these incredibly mystical creatures that are just raw, wild, fierce. And so you get to have these encounters, and you get to feel this energy from these lions. And when you're fully in their territory, you're not in a vehicle, you're out there on foot, and you're not it's not hunting, you're just going out there to be with the lions and experience their energy.
Wow. So what does that feel like when you're, walking for 4 hours and suddenly you come up, like for the first time, like your heart elevation raises, I imagine.
Oh man, yeah. So the heart, depending on what the scenario is that we find them in, and how how they're interacting with us, is it all kind of change. It kind of depends, and the most likely thing is that as soon as they sense us, they usually will get up and kind of move away because they don't know what to do with us as humans. They aren't used to
No.
seeing humans out there on foot. And then if they're like on a kill, let's say if they're eating, or something to that effect where they don't want to get up and move, oftentimes they'll stand up, they'll growl at you a bit to kind of,
Yeah.
and the thing is that, people think like, this lion wants to kill you or whatever. And the thing is, the lion doesn't want to kill you. They just are communicating a message that they need more space.
Yeah.
So they're essentially setting a boundary and communicating with you to say, hey, like, you've come too close. We need more space. We don't know what you are. We're not feeling safe. And so they'll communicate that and gently ask you to leave or to move away.
Yeah. Wow.
But there's almost like a boundary that's established, and if as long as you don't break that boundary, they calm down. So they kind of get up. They go, "That's good. We need space."
Yeah.
And if you hold your ground and don't move any closer, then usually you can have a really great few minutes with them.
Like a lot of animals in the wild, I imagine. Similar sort of relationship.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I've heard bears are very different.
Yeah.
But I've never went bear tracking. But with the lions, yeah, there's quite a predictable behavior that they have in that sense.
Okay. You were chased by one, weren't you?
I've been
Confronted?
confronted. Yeah. So there's like 7 or 8 times out there that I've had a lion charge at us. And so that's
It's exciting.
yeah, it's very exciting. It's to be honest, man, it's the most alive I've ever felt.
What's like the group size of you guys? Like how many of you?
So it's the most that can be is like typically like 7 or 8 total. So I've been in groups where it's 4 of us and I've gotten charged. I've gotten in groups of 6 or 7 and we've been charged. And so that's, again, if they do growl and they're a bit more agitated for whatever reason, or whatever, they'll do what's called a line charge, which is essentially they'll run at you full speed, 50 miles an hour, covering 22 meters a second. And then if you hold your ground, they'll stop. And so you just have to hold your ground. You cannot run, because if you
Holy
run,
shit. That's exciting.
yeah, it really is quite exciting. And it's amazing. The first time it happened, obviously, it's so, your brain's like, what's happening here? You've got the guides next to you, and like, luckily the guides are so relaxed and chill because they usually have faced hundreds of charges from lions, and they're just very comfortable with it and they understand the behavior. And so you can almost draft off of their courage and their energy. Like you can really you can feel how calm they are. And it just really like flows over into you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I imagine I'd be sort of standing behind the guides a little bit and
yes. Yeah. Either next to them or behind them. I mean, I've gotten to the point now where we're tracking, I'll sometimes be the lead tracker. So I'm in the front. So if they do run at us, I've got to hold my ground. But it definitely feels a little bit better being behind one of the guides, for sure.
So just tracking, is there the purpose behind the tracking, or is it just to experience it? And like, what's your goal, I suppose?
I would say the main, there's so many parallels to life that I've learned out there. A lot of it has to do around surrender and slowing down and patience and trust. And so, because when you're out there, when we're in the pure wild, there's no guarantee that there's lions there. I mean, we know that this area that we go to is got good lion activity, and they really should be in that area, but sometimes they'll move 10 miles to a different direction or whatever, but they typically are coming and going in that area. And so there's a really good chance of it, but there's no guarantee. And so if you wanted a guarantee, go to the zoo or you go to a safari park or something where they're in a certain sized, cage, however big it is.
Yeah.
But with this, there's no guarantee. And so you really, even though I hire one of the best line trackers on the planet, even with that, it's not like something that's predictable, like in the sense of like we're definitely going to see something or we don't know how or when. And sometimes we'll track for 30 minutes and find them. Sometimes it's 5 hours and nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of surrender. It's a lot of just trusting what nature gives you, trusting what shows up. And it might be lions, it might be elephants, it might be giraffes, it might be it could be leopards, it could be cheetah, it could be buffalo, rhino. I mean, everything that exists in Africa essentially is there.
Yeah.
And you might come across any of it at any moment. And we track we oftentimes will track in fairly dense areas. So you have to be you really got to be very vigilant.
Yeah.
And so your brain almost fires out the same, whatever it is that like is happening when you meditate, because your brain knows it has to be so dialed in, because again, you could take thousands of steps over hours of time, and then all of a sudden one step and something turns really quickly in terms of like, we need to be really smart and aware, So like one time I came across a rhino, when we were out tracking, and it could have been a very dangerous situation if we didn't know what we were doing in terms of being vigilant and being aware. So I've had that with rhino, elephants, buffalo out there, and you just have to be very, very ready to be present.
Yeah, nice. So how has it changed your perspective on life since you've been doing this, prior and after?
Yeah, one of the biggest ways it's changed my perspective is that when you're tracking, you really just follow one track at a time, and you're trusting where that track is leading you. You don't go from A to Z. You go from A to B to C to C to D, and you just trust whatever, there's always things that are kind of opening up. Every track that you get, not every track, but like as you're tracking, things are opening up, and you're gaining more information, and you're basically, the main tracker I work with is a guy named Renius. And Renius he's always putting a story together about what are the lions doing, where are they coming from, where are they going, why are they here, why'd they stop there, why'd they lay down here, and that helps you put a story together of what the lions might be doing, so that you can have a better chance of finding them. Yeah. And so for me, it's a lot of it's just like putting the pieces together of our lives, of just taking one step at a time as we go, and really finding our way to, the life that we want to live.
Cool. It's a good segue there. Now, you're a high performance coach, right?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that for?
16 years.
16 years. Wow. What got you into coaching?
I always had such a passion and a fascination with just human performance and fulfillment and purpose and all these things. And my late 20s, I had no idea that this was like a profession, or it was something that you could do and make money doing it. Yeah. And so I still remember one of my friends who was getting into it told me about it, and I was like, you can't make money doing that. Like, you can't, like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And he said, no, you can. And I still didn't believe him. And luckily I believed him just enough, like 1%, to take a look into it and get trained originally. But even then I was such a skeptic. I was like, there's no way this works.
Yeah, I get it.
But I felt drawn. It was one of those things I just couldn't not do it. It was so it was so alluring to me to figure out how humans work and interact with each other and perform. And I work with athletes, and I was fascinated with how athletes perform, and how do certain athletes perform with more poise and calm when they perform, versus some athletes that become head cases and can't perform, and things like that. And so it just became so fascinated, and I just decided, I want to be the best at this in the world. Like there's just like a draw to it of like, how do I get better and better and better at this thing?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So still working with high performing athletes.
Yes.
CEOs, executives, I imagine.
Yes. Yep. That's the main clientele I work with right now.
Okay. And you work for a company called Novus, was it?
Yeah. Novus Global. Yep.
Novus Global. Cool. So tell us, you've written this book, The Lion Is You.
Yes.
What was your ultimate goal here of writing this book? What were you hoping to achieve?
Yeah. There's a few things, but I'd say the ultimate goal is I wanted people to, through the story that I tell of my own life, so it's like part memoir, part like super practical, but I wanted people to at some point be reading the book and have this realization that their life could be so much better than it is. Like there was like this the ceiling was higher than they ever imagined, but also a realization that if they want it, it's not like they've really got to put the work in. They got to work on themselves. They got to be open to feedback. They've got to really be, have some courage when it comes to self-awareness and development. And so I wanted them to have that beautiful thing of like, man, I really want this, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes in terms of working on myself and understanding myself and the world around me in order to have it. And so I wanted people to have that moment where it's like, man, I really want this life and I'm willing to go get it.
Okay, that's good. What you talk a lot about purpose. It's something that I've been thinking about this week and talk about a lot as well. But what is purpose to you? Like, how do you define that? Is it something that's created or is it discovered? Like,
the thing I've been, I'd say the thing I've been chewing on recently is, Joseph Campbell, who's a philosopher, has a quote, and he says, he said, I don't think people are looking as much for the meaning of life as they are looking for the feeling of being alive.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I grew up in a faith-filled home. I grew up in a Christian home, and I still have a lot of admiration for my faith, and I think that plays into it. And I live with a very open hand in terms of what the heck purpose means. And for me, I think it does have a lot to do with aliveness. I feel like we're wired to experience aliveness and to really be drawn to that type of energy. That's why people will pay, lots of money for, to go to a concert or a sporting event, rather than just watch it on TV. They want to be there because they feel that energy. They want that experience of aliveness. People like falling in love. Like there's something to that I think is pre-baked and wired into us that draws us to certain things. And so whether it's tracking lions like myself, which is not, what most people are drawn to, but some people are drawn to dance. Some people are drawn to writing. Some people are drawn to building businesses, and it just really, it lights them up.
Yeah.
And so for me, a lot of purpose is figuring out what it is that lights you up and going after it, no matter how irrational it seems. Because a lot of times we have society tells us, do this safe route, do this safe path, go get this degree, and then get this job so you're safe. When we always sense like, oh no, I'm actually called to this. And most of the people that are become really innovative, they follow that calling to the thing that feels outlandish or irrational at times, and they just keep taking one step, one track at a time, and then all of a sudden they wake up 10 years later and they've had a massive impact in that area.
Yeah. 100%. And I talk about that story a lot in my life is, getting an education, going to university, getting a job, and got to a point where I'm just like, what the fuck is all this? And I think most people go through that, right? And they get to that point where there's like, I don't feel alive. This doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that goes back to that calling. Like, how do you find or discover that calling? Is it something, because I think it's just a part of your upbringing and, what you've been surrounded by. A lot of people, children, follow in the footsteps of their parents, their environment they're around. I don't think it's necessarily innately in this, but maybe there is some characteristics or personalities that shine through in life. But I mean, you must deal with a lot of people to get to a point where there's like, okay, I feel stuck, I feel stagnant. This doesn't feel like life should be.
Right.
How do you guide them to finding that calling if they don't already know it?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I invite my clients to do consistently is to constantly be experimenting with things that seem to draw them. And so for me, it can be such a wide array of things. Like, some of the most meaningful moments in my life, for instance, pre-COVID, when I lived in California, I would go once a month and I would volunteer in a maximum security prison doing business development skills, executive coaching type of work inside of the prisons with people that, had been in prison for a long time, or some of them would never get out. Some of them would be getting out soon. And I just remember feeling so fulfilled and so alive. And it was like the last place I thought I would feel aliveness. And then now I volunteer with this organization in Denver that helps people get out of poverty and like creates a sustainable way for people to get out of poverty. And I feel so alive on Wednesday nights when I get to go do that.
Yeah.
And so there's some of that stuff. And then there's tracking lions. And so what I invite people to do is to go experiment with different things. And one of the things I do find obviously is maybe not so obvious, but is that oftentimes when we get closer to the pain of the world, so prisons, people in poverty, when we get closer to pain in the world, I find there is a sense of aliveness when we feel like we're actually really giving back to something that's meaningful. And so again, it can be some of that stuff. It could be tracking lions. For some people, it's music, dance, art, business. So I have them experiment, because if you're not feeling it now, there's some sort of reason you're not feeling it now. And I think there's sometimes you can actually learn how to feel it in your current circumstance. But a lot of times I think it just means like you're called to something unique. And so how can you just put one foot in front of the other? It doesn't mean you need to quit your job. And I don't tell people don't just quit your job and run away.
Yeah.
But what can you do on Tuesday and Thursday evenings to start moving in the direction of things that you feel drawn to? Because it does take hard work. It does take risk. It does take putting yourself out there and experimenting, and then noticing what seems to draw you. And that might be some sort of volunteer thing. It might be some sort of side business people can start. It might be travel. It might be, tracking lions. I don't know what it is for people, but they've got to get out there and experience. Because if I had never gone to Africa, I would never know how much aliveness it created for me when I was out tracking lions. I would never know, because if I had never experimented it. But luckily, I ended up experimenting with it.
Yeah.
And it became a huge part of my life.
You had that connection with it. And you talk something about there, which is related to purpose and the goal. But, I think often it's inwardly focused, but going out there to the prisons, you're sort of putting it out there and actually helping others. It's not so much inwardly focused purpose.
Yes.
And I think that gives you a greater sense of aliveness than the other. But then you look at the lion example where you're tracking lions, and I guess that's a sort of inwardly sort of almost selfish way to develop and grow.
Yeah, it is. And I've started leading trips now where I actually take guests.
Right.
And so it's added a new facet to it, which has been really beautiful, of seeing other people experience it through that. So it's partially inward in terms of my experience being out there in the wild. And then also it's just really beautiful seeing how other people experience it, and getting to see them, like the first time they see lions on foot, it's just, they're just they just light up, and it's just so beautiful to watch.
That's amazing. So what is getting people stuck? Because how many people, you must see it all the time in your field of work, but how many people are just stuck in a life that isn't feeling alive, and they're not happy, they're not content, they're not chasing their passions? What's causing them to be stuck? What is it? Fear?
I think at a ground level, has so much to do with fear. I think we are conditioned to play it safe, right? So and there's not safety is not the enemy. It's just when that's the only motivating factor, and it's all we're doing is just stay safe, get the safe job, get the safe degree, the one that guarantees a job. Don't do the things that feel irrational. I think people are just drawn to not stand out too much, and just conditioned to just
fit in.
Just do your thing and make sure you can pay the bills. And then we wake up and we realize we've bought into this thing that that's just the best word I've heard it said is we end up sleepwalking through life.
Yeah.
And we get stuck there, and then it feels like such a monumental task to unwind all of that and then really go after our passions, because maybe we have kids, maybe we have, more responsibilities. And so how do we do it now? And all that type of thing. And so I think that, and we're just, so it's fear of all the things. And I have, a lot of compassion for people that are in scenarios like that, where they have a lot of responsibilities. So then what do you do at that point? And that's where I say, take it one step at a time and go slow, or find a way to, experience aliveness in your day to day, which I do think people can stay in the exact job they're in. I think they can experience aliveness. They just have to really search for it and how they do that.
Mix up the routine a little bit.
Yeah, mix the routine up, or just it could be something just you're going to the office and you could decide that, man, this is gonna be the best day of my life, and I'm gonna get to know people at a deeper level, and just you can inject that into it if people are willing to do it. But most times people resign to life hasn't turned out what I want it to be, and so this sucks, and just go through the status quo, rather than what if I could make this really something amazing here? And what if I could make a difference in the lives of my coworkers, or my boss or people that I work with and that kind of thing, and really find a way to do that, and then still do stuff on the side to experiment, to see what draws them. But I think people just aren't willing to do that because we get so sedated by social media, by watching, just Netflix or, screens or whatever streaming service we've got. We just end up doing that. And then we wake up 5 years later and, the hundreds of hours or thousands of hours that we've watched TV or been on social media, like we could have been starting a side hustle. We could have been experimenting with volunteering. We could have been finding things that are meaningful, because nobody scrolls social media for half an hour and thinks, man, that was really fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly.
It never happens. Or you binge watch a show for a whole weekend and you're like, man, I just feel so alive.
Yeah.
I've never heard that happen. And, but then people keep doing it because it's the more comfortable thing to do than to get out some paper and write a poem or go to a dance class.
It's the easier path and more comfortable. Is it you think people get wound up too much in the how? Like, okay, I want to start a charity or whatever, and they just go, I don't know how to do that, so they just go back to the Netflix. Like, is the how that important on how to do something that you want to make?
I mean, I don't think the how is definitely important, but I think you find your way to the how when you're committed or you're willing.
Right.
Right. But it's like, oh, well, it's uncomfortable to, try to figure out a side business to start. It's uncomfortable to like do some sort of art and put it out there. And so it's way more comfortable to flip the TV on and watch something. And so there was a researcher who had a TED Talk, is a guy named Dan Ariely. And he talked about, he just had this simple thing of, he said our brains, if you ask somebody a question of, hey, if you, drank a bottle of wine tonight and watched TV for 3 hours, nobody, if you said to somebody, hey, do you think in 10 years, and let's say you did that consistently for 10 years, do you think you're going to have a really fulfilling life? And anybody would tell you, like, no, that's not going to lead to a fulfilling life. But yet people do it night after night after night. Yeah. And then so it happens gradually and then suddenly, and then people wake up and they feel like they're sleepwalking, versus if you took a few nights a week and you worked on that side hustle, you worked on something else, or you volunteered, or you wrote poetry, if you did that for 10 years consistently, do you think that would be fulfilling? People are like, yeah, that would be fulfilling. But then what happens tonight on, Thursday night, Friday night, Monday night, when it's time to write the poetry or work on the side business or whatever, they flip on the TV and open a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And so it's like people get it, and they're intelligent enough. It's just in that moment, are you willing to choose to go to the gym rather than stay on the couch and eat potato chips? It's just those little moments stacked up over time that creates a life.
Yeah. And we hear it time and time again, dedicate a couple hours a week, maybe in the evenings, where you just focus on a passion, side project, whatever it might be. But yeah, people still don't do it.
No.
And again, maybe it's because of society, the overwhelm, the stress that we have in our lives right now. And, you're just totally drained by the end of the day to be able to go, okay, I don't have the capacity to spend an hour on that. I mean, is that a factor that we need to consider? And then, what are the tools that you can give our audience to say, okay, well, look, come up with a plan. And these are the tools that will help you break that stuckness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in terms of the tools, I think it's just one of the biggest tools is, well, let's say there's two. One of the biggest tools is obviously the willingness to just take action and move forward. The second one I would say is to find people that you admire and learn from them somehow, some way, like just whether that's through podcasts, whether that's through reaching out. Even sometimes you can actually get a hold of people that you don't think you can get a hold of, but find people that you aspire to be like, that you really are, inspired by, and learn from them. Like, almost all of them have like, some sort of playbook, either they've like produced or published, or something like that. But it's like, find those people that really inspire you and follow in their footsteps. It's not rocket science. And then you'll find your way with it if you're willing to just take action.
Yeah. Yeah. So reach out to the people you admire, the mentors. Potentially. And there probably is people in your local community that you can reach out to. And most people are willing to catch up and help, once they As long as they see the effort. You talk about effort a lot.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. If you make the effort, there's a lot of people you can get access to that will share tons of insights with you. And then again, today with just like the amount of podcasts, like if there's somebody that you look up to, I mean, there is like the playbook is out there, it's like they're everywhere. And so you just have to just be willing to actually put your skin in the game. And sometimes that means investing in some money into something. Sometimes that means, again, just getting out there and volunteering. Sometimes that means putting your artistic craft out in the world and publishing things. And it just means putting yourself out there and like being willing to go one step beyond your fear. And then if you do that enough times, you will go so far beyond your fear, you won't even believe it.
Yeah. How do you help people with the idea, the fear, I suppose, that's attached to, putting yourself out there and trying something different? And I guess a lot of people don't do that because they don't want to be judged, ridiculed, embarrassed. They don't want to be seen as a failure. How do you help people through that?
Some of it you can do from a mindset standpoint of just kind of cascading of, okay, well, what if you're embarrassed? Then what? Because people think, oh, I'll be embarrassed or I'll be perceived as a failure, and they think they're just going to fall over and die. And so what I'll say to them is, okay, so what if you are embarrassed? What if you do fail at that thing? Then what? And they're like, a lot of times they're like, oh, I've been embarrassed before. It wouldn't be that bad, But when you sit on this side of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, we like make this huge thing of being embarrassed. Like a year and a half ago, I was working on a new keynote talk, and I made a decision, for instance, to give it in front of my company over we were having a company retreat, and over lunch one day I said, hey, listen, I'm going to give a dry run of this keynote that I've been working on, and so I'm going to just take a swing at it, and it went so terribly. It like went awful. It was literally the most embarrassing moment of my life. And I had so many feelings and so many emotions about, like, I thought I was ready to give this keynote, and then I kept forgetting my lines. And then I'm standing in front of my company, and I'm like feeling so embarrassed. And at the
good safe place to do it, I suppose, but still, nonetheless.
Yeah, nonetheless, it was very embarrassing. I just remember, like, I was in tears. It was like I was like a total meltdown in some ways, of like just no better way to put it. And I got through the thing, and I had so much great feedback about people getting to experience me like work through it. And the thing was, I felt so alive at the end of it because I went for something, but like that I wasn't sure was going to work, that I thought might fail, that I thought I had, but I wasn't positive. And then I got up there and I got like whatever stage fright or something happened that I hadn't ever happened before to me. Because it was new content that I thought I had in my head, and something went, I don't know what happened. It just went crazy, but I felt so alive because I took the courageous step. And I remember the days leading up to it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to find a way to back out. I'm not ready. I'm going to say I have a headache. I had all these things. I was like, I'm going to eject. But then I was like, no, I'm going to do this, and I don't care how poorly it goes. And I did not think it would go that bad. And I thought it would just be like mediocre at worst, and it was like a meltdown. Yeah. But like I said, I felt so alive. But then the feedback I got from people, for them to see, because I'm a partner in the firm at Novus Global, and we started when I was 5 or 6 coaches, and now we're over 100, right? So it's quite a large company comparatively. So people kind of see me as like, oh, you're one of the original founders of this thing. You have it all together. So for them to see me be willing to take a swing and be vulnerable, like so many people were like, that was so meaningful, because they feel like they have to have it all together because, the partners have it all together or whatever it is. And so like,
it's not.
It's one of the advantages of being a part of a coaching firm that I've found is just the immense amount of community we have and the ability to learn from each other, to let our guard down and say, I don't have it all together, and neither do you, and neither do you, neither do you. We're figuring this out together.
Yeah. I love that.
So back to your question though, of like, how do you get people over it? Part of it's the mindset, and part of it's like, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do an ice bath, no matter if you're standing there in front of the ice bath, no matter how much thinking you do about it, it's not going to make the water warmer.
Yeah.
At some point, you just got to get in the water. It's just, we can do all kinds of mindset hacks on it, and the water's going to be cold. So just jump in and then figure it out as you go.
That's a really interesting point that you talk about, the courage to stand up and do something that's uncertain, and just to do it, and the how it makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
Like that's a great connection there.
Yes.
And I can relate because I know when I stand up to speak, I'm usually shit scared, but I feel fucking
Yeah.
so alive after it. But like, walking in the wilderness, you don't know where you're going necessarily, and you just do it and you come back and you feel so alive. Like, you following through with that courage. And it's like almost a self-promise. Like when you say you're going to do something, then you go do it, how much it triggers endorphins and whatever else it does. Like
Yeah.
that's powerful.
There's something about that, of just, and that's where we, like at our firm, one of the biggest things we work with clients on is this idea of our definition of integrity is just to do what you say you're going to do.
Mm.
And what's interesting is it's a way to leverage when you're afraid, right? So for me, I just said, hey, I told the company 30 days before, I'm going to get up at lunch. I'm going to do this dry run of the keynote.
Yeah.
And as much as I wanted to back out, I wanted to maintain my integrity of doing what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
And so because I do that, that's when I got to experience the aliveness. And so when we're thinking about things that are beyond our comfort zone, if I just leverage my integrity of like, I'm going to go volunteer at this thing tonight, or I'm going to write a poem tonight, or I'm going to spend 2 hours researching business ideas tonight. And you follow through, there is an aliveness that comes just like with, hey, I'm going to go do this workout. You do the workout. Nobody ever gets done with the workout and says, oh, I wish I'd have just slept in.
No.
Never, like that never happens. But if
And
you
no
sleep
one really
in,
goes into a workout like pumped to ready to do it either.
not necessarily.
I
I think
don't think.
there's some
Maybe
crazy
there
people
is.
out there, but
Yeah.
certainly you feel great afterwards because it fires off all these endorphins like you're talking about.
Hmm.
And so if you can leverage that idea of like, I know if I go do this workout, I'm going to feel better. If I do this ice bath for 3 minutes, I'm going to feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
And if you can leverage that understanding of the future and bring it into the now you've got this aliveness kind of alchemy, if you will, of like, oh, I know how to generate aliveness no matter where I am in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I guess a consistency thing. Repetition will strengthen that muscle to allow you to do it again and again. But you mentioned saying, about just jumping in the cold bath and doing those small things that are uncomfortable helps build that muscle to do the bigger things that are uncomfortable. Do you find
Yes, I do. Because Andrew Huberman in his podcast has talked about this, and I think other ones as well about, and I'm going to botch the name of it, but there's some part of your brain, it's like the mid-singular cortex or something. I'm probably botching it, but there's some part of your brain.
I'll go with that.
That by doing hard things, there's a muscle in your brain that when you do hard things, you're able to do more and more hard things. Kind of like if you do bicep curls, your bicep gets bigger. It's that muscle in your brain, that capacity to do harder things grows, which is fascinating. And when I have done, like ice baths consistently, the water's always cold, but it does get slightly easier, I find.
Yeah.
And if I compare when I do them now to when I started doing them 10 years ago, I mean, I remember 10 years ago, the first time I ever did one, and I thought I was, I got into the water and I thought I was legitimately going to die. I was just like, I'm going to die. This is so cold. And now I can get into that same temperature of water. And I know not only am I not going to die, I know it's actually good for me. Yeah. And so I just get in and I work on my breath. I work on relaxing. I work on letting go. And then 3 minutes goes by and it still was uncomfortable and it still was cold, but it's like that muscle in my brain has grown to like, I can do hard things. Yeah. And it does start with the little things. Yeah.
And it helps with all the other things too, I imagine, with those things. So when you're coaching someone, because most people are, I guess, set in their ways, they know, what to do, what they know, but how do you help someone identify some things that they're missing that will help them get to the next level?
Blind spots?
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of blind spots, I find there's two primary ways that at Novus Global that we help people find blind spots. I would say one is just getting feedback and just get feedback from people that would be straight with you and be honest with you, even if it hurts your feelings.
Okay.
The second main way is, I think the best way to expose blind spots is to do things you're afraid of, is to go beyond your comfort zone consistently. And then you'll notice all the conversations that come up around that, right? So it's whether it's starting a business, whether it's going for promotion, whether it's, going for a relationship, whether it's getting into an ice bath, right? So like an ice bath is just a great simple example of like, you stand there outside the ice bath about to get in, or you're thinking you're going to get in, And it's like, just notice all the conversations that come up that stop you, right, from doing something that's like 2 to 3 minutes of discomfort for like hours of like a really healthy dopamine bump.
Yeah.
Right. So 2 to 3 minutes of discomfort for 3 hours of energy, and all the conversations that come up that stop you from doing that. Right. Same thing with like writing a poem. All the conversations that come up about writing a poem or doing some sort of art or starting a business or asking someone out, right? Like all the conversations, like those conversations are the pathway to the blind spots of what you want. And part of the gift of part of the gift of going outside of your comfort zone is you get to experience all those conversations. You get to feel all those weird feelings of like doing something uncomfortable, like when I got on the stage, or like when you got on a stage, and right, you get to like those things we think are the things that are meant to stop us from doing it, when I think those are the gifts that we get when we actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's usually what I do when I'm working with clients, is like, hey, where can you get feedback in your life? And where can you make sure you're going beyond your comfort zone? Because if you're not, that's when you're usually going to end up sleepwalking, waking up 10 years from now and go, what's my life become?
Yeah, good points. How would you identify if you're doing something and you're pursuing something that actually is something that you don't actually want to do? Do you ever have that experience? Like, you're going after something, but it's actually, it's not something you're going after. So there's no point of putting yourself through that fear and uncomfortableness.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes, of course, when you experiment and you go down paths, you're going to find things that like, this isn't my path, and that's great. But at least even the idea that you kept taking risks.
Gave it a go.
Yeah, you give it a go, right? So like, some people like ice baths aren't their thing, but even just doing a few, like, you learn a lot about yourself with these types of things.
Yeah.
And same thing, kind of thing with line trucking, right? Like, it may not be for everybody, but at least if they go, they're gonna meet a version of themselves they never met before that they won't meet, this side of the wild.
And that's okay. So give it a go, and then go, okay, well, it's actually not really for me. Be okay with that. Yes. But I guess the caution I would raise is sometimes you do things and you go, oh yeah, no, it's not really for me. But you're actually just making an excuse for yourself because you found it too hard.
Then that's why you want to, and that's where I think having a coach in your life can be helpful to help assess that. Like, are you just bailing on it because it's too hard, or is it truly not for you? And you want, right? So it's like, but if somebody's willing to keep, but if you notice you've done 10 things and you keep pulling up at the same point, then it probably is some sort of blockages in your system somehow that's holding you back from going full on.
Yeah. It. Hey, just to wrap things up, is there anything that you do daily that you feel helps strengthen your character and allows you to be as effective as you are?
I mean, I work out. I don't know. I wouldn't say I work out daily, but it's quite regularly. Yeah. And I think it's constantly pushing myself to do something when I don't necessarily feel like doing it. Right. So whether like yesterday afternoon, I was like, I really don't want to go to the gym, but so I went and I did a hot yoga class, which is is like its own special type of torture. And so a lot of times, I oftentimes will have gyms where I go where there's group classes, because once you sign up, like, you're in, and they'll charge you a few bucks if you don't show up. And if you just get yourself to the gym, you're going to work out hard because you got all these people around you watching. You're not going to like slough off like you might on your own. And so that's one thing I've found to be really a great practice for me, is just go to group classes at gyms where there's accountability there, because that is wildly helpful. I eat healthy. But that's I would say the main things that I do is just make sure I stay active. And I almost get close to 10,000 steps every day, which is just make sure I'm moving a lot.
Yeah, nice. And so we got the book there. We'll stick the book link in the show note, guys. Pick it up. The Lion is You. Lessons from the Wild on Coming Alive Again. I love this conversation. Love the topic of feeling alive. I think that's what we all want. So anything we can do to help everyone push forward into that, great. What can people do to reach out to you? Is there any final thoughts?
Yeah. So the website for our company is novus.global. So novus.global. My personal website's davidagerber.com. So you can go those places. My Instagram is probably where I'm most active right now. I'm working on being more active on LinkedIn and Substack and things like that. But my Instagram handle is at David Gerber.
Yeah.
And so you can find everything out there about line tracking trips, coaching. I talk a lot about all the things that I'm into, and just as a gift to the world of what I'm learning and what I'm seeing. And then obviously the book is the easiest way to get there. Hopefully it's available in Australia. I'm not 100% certain the availability, but you can get it on the Kindle. And maybe by the time this is out, I should have the Audible out soon in the fall of 2026. So the Audible version should be available. And but that's like probably the best way. And I'm intentionally very raw and vulnerable in the book because I wanted to just lead by example in terms of just like, I think the pathway to aliveness goes through vulnerability and taking risks. And so I share a lot of that in the book.
Vulnerability. We didn't even get into that. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the book should be available, guys. There'll be a link in the show notes here in Australia too.
Yeah.
And we'll put all those other links in the show notes. So check it out, guys, at thehiddenwhy.com. David, thanks so much for coming on. Been a great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to this interview. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had. Make sure you check it out at thehiddenwhy.com for all the show notes and links to our guest. And if you have any comments, any suggestions for the show, please make sure you reach out as well. Also, would like to just ask a favor. If you do like what you're listening to, if you love what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe. Whether you're listening to this on iTunes, wherever it might be, subscribe to the podcast so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes and some exciting changes happening this year at The Hidden Why, including the launch of our new website, which will be updated very soon. So watch this space for that, guys. And once again, live more fully, have more meaning, find more joy. We'll see you around the next interview.